Let's just watch the time for all the witnesses.
And if you want to cut him off and censor him some more, you're welcome to do it.
Oh, that's not my job. That's your job.
You floated a baseless conspiracy theory that the coronavirus was bioengineered to target Caucasians and black people, but to spare Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese people. Mr. Kennedy, your bizarre, unproven claim echoes that same historic slander of labeling Jews and Chinese people as a race, and that Jews, and in this case Chinese people, somehow managed to avoid a deadly illness that targets other groups for death. You do see that, yes or no?
You're misstating.
No. I quoted what you said earlier, and it is directly what you said. So just ask me yes or no.
I was describing an NIH-funded study.
No, you didn't cite any.
I was describing an NIH-funded study by Cleveland Clinic
Reclaiming
scientists.
Reclaiming my time. You did not reference reclaiming my
published
time.
in USC Medical, which is one.
The time is mine. I'm reclaiming it. Please ask the witness to stop talking.
You asked me a question.
Reclaiming.
Allow me to answer my question.
Efforts to censor Democrat candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. this week at a hearing on censorship led by the Subcommittee of Weaponization of the Federal Government, as ranking member Stacey Plaskett raised concerns at Kennedy's allotted 10 minutes for an opening statement as opposed to 5 minutes. Even before the hearing started, efforts to shut him down were underway, with Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz making a motion to move the committee into executive session, closing the hearing to the public. That motion blocked by Republicans. Kennedy has also run into resistance from Democrats in his efforts to take on and debate President Joe Biden, who Democrat committee leaders say will be their 2024 candidate with no debating, despite competition from Kennedy as well as Marianne Williamson. In a recent Fox News poll, President Biden has less than 2/3 support in his party's primary, while Kennedy has been building momentum in the bid for this nomination. In a new poll from Quinnipiac University, Kennedy's favorability rating among Republicans and independents is much higher compared to his rank within his own party. Joining me right now, live here in the studio with me for a Sunday Morning Futures exclusive, is the man himself, Democrat presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Mr. Kennedy, it's great to have you this morning.
Very, very good to be here.
Thank you so much for being here. So what went on in that hearing? Censorship has been an issue for several years now. We talk about it every day on this program and on my program on Fox Business. What should be done about it? What can you do to stop it?
This should not be a partisan, or right. This needs to be bipartisan, and the Democratic Party has always fought very hard. My father, my uncle, and throughout its history, the word liberal means freedom and applies specifically to freedom of speech. We can't have a democracy if we don't have freedom of speech. It is the cornerstone of our democracy. That's why the framers put it in the First Amendment. It is, as I said, it's the sunlight, it's the water, it's the soil of democracy. Without free speech, democracy will wither and die. And everybody knows that. We've been warned about that by George Orwell, Aldous Huxley, Alexander Solzhenitsyn, Kessler, Heinlein, everybody. Everybody knows
it's the beginning of totalitarianism.
Yeah, the people who censor speech, when we look back in history, they're never the good guys. Right. And it's inevitable that if you do start censoring speech, because government abuses every power that it's given, and if government suddenly has the capacity to censor its critics, it has a license for any atrocity.
So you've thought about this a lot, and you said, in the hearing that this is the beginning of totalitarianism. I want to know what you can do about it. You've thought about this. So, they've censored, COVID information, Russia collusion information. The Trump administration dealt with it every day. The media and the way government works with Twitter to try to suppress truth and amplify lies. What is your plan to change it?
The alarming thing that's come out in Judge Doty's decision, this is a federal district judge, just issued a 155-page decision forbidding the White House from having any contact with social media companies because it abused those contacts so badly over the past 3 years. What we now know is that the White House had deployed an army of federal agencies, including the CIA, the FBI, the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, the IRS, and many others, to threaten Facebook, Google, and Twitter with withdrawing their Section 230 immunity, which is an existential threat, those companies cannot exist without that immunity. And they were told that if they did not censor the president's opponents, critics of these policies, that they would lose that immunity.
Unbelievable. Well, I mean, there is this network in place. I mean, Trump calls it the swamp. Others call it, you know, just this network of establishment that is hard to get around. I've seen your comments about the CIA and the assassination of your uncle and father, that they were involved. How do you get and break this enormous network?
Well, you have to. I mean, you have to do it agency by agency, because the fulcrum of the corruption of this corrupt merger of state and corporate power is happening within the agencies, and each of those agencies have different issues of the agency that have promoted and prompted the capture of those agencies by the industries they're supposed to regulate. With the intelligence agencies, in many of them, although not all of them, are now serving the purpose of enriching the military-industrial complex and expanding its power for some military contractors. My uncle recognized this, that the function of the CIA had devolved into providing the military-industrial complex with a constant pipeline of new wars in order to enrich military contractors and expand the power of the intelligence apparatus.
Unbelievable. Look, you have this platform this morning. Yes, please, go ahead. I want you to tell us why you. Why do you believe you're the guy to be in charge in 2025? What's your platform?
Well, my platform is, my primary platform is unraveling the war machine, the national security state abroad, sorry, which is bankrupting our country, which is destroying the middle class in our country. And then the ultimate objective is to protect democracy, restore the American middle class. You can't afford to be poor in this country anymore, and you can't afford to be a working person. Just since the lockdowns, the price of housing has gone from $250,000 to $400,000 per home.
Yeah,
and the interest rates
inflation is everywhere. You're right.
Right, and we've lost 1 million Americans lost their homes in 2021 and another 1 million in 2022. Both of those years, we lost more homes than the people who lost them in 2008. So we're in the middle of a terrible crisis in this country right now. Most Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, and they're living in terror that they're going to lose their jobs. 57% of our country people and women can't afford, could not put their hands on $1,000 if they had an emergency.
So
this is not, the America that I grew up in. The America I grew up in had a robust middle class that was the generator, the economic generator for our country and for democracy. And they have been trampled by these war policies, but the bailout policies, and all the things that now, many of the leadership of the Democratic Party now represents. And so, what my objective is to restore the moral authority of this country, our moral standing in the world, our leadership in the world. And it begins with the American middle class at home, and to recapture our government for the American people and to take it away from these, this corrupt merger of the state
and both sides should agree on what you're saying. But are you being heard? How are you going to communicate this if you are unable to do a debate? The Democrat leadership will not have you there on stage, or anybody. They've got their guy. Are you being heard? Can you assess the response you've gotten from the Democrat Party?
Well, it's interesting to me because I've been really, slammed in a way that I think is unprecedented, even more than President Trump was slammed by the mainstream, by the corporate media. But this Harris-Harvard poll came out, which is a gold standard poll, I think 2,500 people yesterday, that showed that my popularity is greater than by I think 20 points. And any other political candidate. So somehow the American people are hearing what I'm saying. I don't know whether it's through the podcast or through social media. My unfavorability ratings should be off the charts if people believe. I mean, listen, if I believe the stuff that's written about me in the papers and reported about me on the mainstream news sites, I would not have anything. I would definitely not vote for me, and I would not, I would think I was a very despicable person.
Well,
somehow
they're telling your story. I mean, they're going to tell whatever story they want to tell. I want to get your take on this issue of corruption in government, because we've been talking all morning about the fact that we've got these new bank records from the Oversight Committee that shows Joe Biden took in millions of dollars and his family. And we don't know what specific policy decisions he changed as a result of why did he get paid? What do you think about that? I mean, there's an actual conversation underway about impeaching Joe Biden because of this. You know that.
Yeah, I have avoided criticizing the president because I'm trying to bring people together and end some of the vitriol, the poison that's made politics so poisonous.
Well, corruption is corruption. We don't want corruption in government.
But you're right. And I think, though, the issues that are now coming up are worrying enough that we really need a real investigation of what happened. I mean, these revelations about that where you have Burisma, which is this notoriously corrupt company that paid out apparently $10 million to Hunter and his dad. If that's true, then it is really troubling. So I think that needs to be investigated.
Well, there's also an issue with the investigators, because if the DOJ is getting in front of any real investigation, then there's a problem with that as well. I mean, these federal agencies, in terms of what they pursue, they did it throughout the Trump administration, trying to take down Trump officials with FISA warrants.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that every American needs to worry about, that our federal agencies, which used to be above politics, and now become weaponized as political instruments. And that, again, is another really damaging trend for our democracy.
Robert, we'd love to continue this conversation. We hope you'll come back. We want to give you the platform that it appears the Democrats are not giving you. So please come back soon to talk more about this.
Thank you very, very much.
And your policy recommendations. 2024 Democrat presidential candidate, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We will see you soon.